Welcome to this edition of the B2B Engagement Podcast. I'm your host, Gavin Finn from Kaon Interactive, and we're extremely privileged today to have joining us Bhargab Barua, the Vice President of Global Marketing for Integrated Clinical Solutions at bioMérieux. Welcome, Bhargab.
Thank you, Gavin, for having me with you.
Today, we're going to be talking about customer-centric strategies that drive market growth. Bhargab is in a unique position to really be a thought leader on this subject because he has created a vision and implementation and a strategy that's really driven around this market growth orientation led by global marketing. So we're very honored to have you with us, and I'm sure our audience is going to learn a lot from you. As we get started, I want to just maybe personalize this a little bit. You're in a global marketing role right now, but you've had a very interesting and varied career in marketing in the life sciences industry, and starting out as a product manager and having different business management roles throughout the world. Global marketing is a very specific role, obviously, and lots of people come through different paths to get here. But you're a very effective executive in this area, and I think it would be helpful for folks to learn a little bit about what you've learned over the years that have prepared you for this.
Sure. Gavin, again, thank you. Like I said, it's really glad for me to be with you and to have this exchange. So I started in healthcare and predominantly within the diagnostics space. I started in India. I was responsible for marketing. And then I took some regional role, which was again in marketing and business. And since last 4 years, I am leading this global marketing role, which is about integrated solutions. And all throughout, the customers remains at the center of everything that we do, because it finally depends how we are addressing the real needs of the customers. And this is also something we have been doing for a while, really trying to understand the need of the different stakeholders, and then bringing our solution in a way that addresses the niche of all those different stakeholders or all those influencers.
That's really important for all of us to reflect back on, because certainly a lot of executives think of marketing as communications or messaging to the world. But if our audience listens to what you've just said, it's all about starting with the customer needs and then understanding them better. And I think that's something that we can all learn is, as marketers, the very first thing we've got to really do is understand our customers first and then put strategies in place to bring solutions that help them solve problems. And I think that's a very valuable set of lessons for us all. Something that I've noticed in the last few years, but I think you probably have either driven this or seen it happen in the world, is that there has been a dynamic shift, a change in the role of marketing within very large organizations. And particularly if we think about the diagnostic space, marketing used to be, I think, more fragmented, more tactical. And it's certainly changed these days into a more strategic role. What have you seen in the recent past with respect to how marketing has evolved and what that's meant for you leading global marketing?
So I think before even getting into the role of marketing, I think it's also important for us to realize how the market has evolved, right? Mm-hmm. Because a lot of things actually also have changed with COVID, because COVID made sure that the role of diagnostics is something very critical, right? Everything that we try to do about the management of a patient, it starts with diagnostics. I think that's something good. But then with that, there are a lot of other things also have changed. There is more multi-stakeholder approach in terms of the buying decisions, but you also see change in terms of the practices. Like I think now we also see more near patient or decentralized testing. And with the increase in the spends, I think there is more and more pressure that we really need to be able to demonstrate the medical value of any diagnostics that we are trying to bring it to our customers or for our patient. Like you said at the beginning, it's a communication, promotion, which all are important. But then with the customer centricity, how can we really demonstrate the value that we are promising in the real customer setting? I think that's something is super important.
That really is a very significant change in marketing's role. If you think about whether it's diagnostics or information technology or industrial systems, whatever the market is, there used to be a strong emphasis on our solution, our features, our differentiation. And you framed this as customer centricity, but there's a lot that goes into customer centricity. And you've now expanded that to include the entire implementation cycle. And I think that's a big shift for B2B marketers. It may be something that you take for granted or if it's just part of your nature, but many B2B organizations are struggling with that shift. In the B2C world, consumer products, the CPG companies know very well that there's three moments of truth. There's the moment where they hear about the product and they get the references from their friends or from advertising.
Mhm.
Then there's the buying experience, and then there's the moment of truth about did it deliver on its promise. And that's never really been the remit of B2B marketers. But everything you've just described really fits that entire cycle. It's what do they need? How are we going to communicate our value to them? Not our features, our value. And then how are we going to help them have a seamless buying experience and not a transaction, but a relationship? And then after they buy, how are we going to make sure that they're actually implemented in a way that delivers value post the part of the process where we're involved? And I think that's transformational for the entire industry, but certainly in respect to the healthcare world.
We as bioMérieux bring multiple technologies to the customers, right? And each of that has unique benefit that we bring. But then that benefit multiplies when you bring all these different technologies together. So I think that's something super important for us to consider. And as a global marketing organization, like you said, rather than being very product centric or feature centric, like really bringing this solution centricity in order to better support our customers, which in turn can better support their patients. So it's important that we find the right customers. And then from the portfolio of solutions, we propose the right offer or the right functionalities, and then really working with them to really make sure it's properly integrated. And as it is a change, even for the customers, sometimes it's important that we accompany them for a while so that this change or implementation is really sustainable. Many times it's also important that when you go to the hospital or to the laboratory, the clinicians are getting benefited through this information, right? Again, it's not the same approach that we do in every geography, but depending on the maturity, I think it's also important not to lose the focus on the importance of the education, be it on the best practices, be it on the value of the diagnostics, or on the interpretation of these diagnostics to better manage their patients. So I think this is also coming as a part of our offer or as a part of the differentiation that we are bringing to the customers.
Yeah, I actually see two big process changes involved in what you just talked about. One of them is that you are not optimizing a small part of the process. You're really looking at how to transform the entire procedure, the entire process. And so it's not just about training on how to use an instrument, for example. It's really about training them on what the integrated changes mean when you're implementing a new assay and a different sequence in the process, how that might overall reduce the amount of time it takes to get a result. But then what do you do with that? How do you then implement that in a hospital with the shift cycle that they have or with
Yes.
the rounds that they have? So it's maybe much more personalized than it used to be. So that's one sort of process change there. The other one that I think is something that you've spent a lot of time in your career focusing on, and I think you do with your teams and in how you train them, is it's the people side of that transformation, right?
Absolutely.
There's a technology involved, of course, but have to build the trust and the confidence of the team to be able to say the result of what we're bringing to the table is some of the work that is going to be done by you, by your partners, by your colleagues is going to change. And I think that's probably a very difficult message and maybe more of a human psychology change and process. Is that something that you deal with? And if so, how have you learned to build that trust and the confidence to help get people to accept and embrace that kind of change?
That's a very good question because, like you said, it's a change for sure. And every time, like we are trying to bring a change, we are going out of our comfort zone, right? But I think it's very important that we start looking at big picture that we are looking at. Even if it involves changing the status quo, I think that's okay. But looking at the big picture, then having a team with the right mindset who have to be empowered as well as accountable. And we try to find some pilots or a proof of concept work on a very smaller base to show how this change is really going to help. And once we see that the impact of this change, it gives more confidence to the customer about the value, but it also gives more confidence to our team that, okay, by making this change, we are really helping somebody with our solutions. And on the personal side, it also gives them confidence that because when we start on a topic like this, sometimes they feel it's super difficult for us to pursue. But when they see the success, at times they also realize their full potential, something which they're maybe a little bit conservative about at the beginning.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think it does reflect, I've seen this in lots of organizations, the need to find people who have a motivation that's slightly different from what perhaps a more traditional motivation might be, which is maybe more quantified deliverables and career growth and those kinds of things. There's an intrinsic motivation that you
True.
look for in people that's about the rewards of seeing their work, the fruits of their labor and their advice actually delivering results for patients. It's thinking about our customer's customer, right? We may be involved in helping our customers, but particularly in the healthcare world, it's all about improving patient outcomes and optimizing our customers' performance and financial resources and labor pools. But that requires that you get the right people on your team who are driven by those motivations, right? That must be quite a transformation too.
True. That's definitely true. But then it also depends the organization that you work for, right? For me, it has been almost 16 years. I have been working in bioMérieux in different roles in different geographies, but it's very much the purpose of the company that how can you really contribute to make the world a healthier place. I think this is driving each one of us in the organization, and that's why it's also giving us this opportunity to try out that if we need to change the way of doing things, we are allowed to try, because at the end, by doing it, we know we are helping our customers who indirectly going to help the patient that we all serve.
I think that mode of experimentation, the freedom to try new things, but then the ability to also hold people accountable
Sure.
for the ultimate vision, which is, are we delivering the value to the patients? Are we delivering
Absolutely.
their healthcare outcomes? I think that sort of pyramid of, value drivers is really important. And one of the things that you've stressed is that there's a combination of new ways of doing things, but you've also thought about introducing different kinds of processes and tools. And there's a lot of digital engagement going on now with customers, particularly, as you said earlier, with respect to the fact that there are many more people involved in and groups involved in these decisions and implementations. It's no longer just delivering an instrument for a lab technician or for a clinician.
Mhm.
How have you thought about your role as a global marketing leader in introducing new tools and technologies to your team and to the customers to help in this transition? What's that technology-driven role in your organization?
Again, I think it's a very fair question. It also somehow links to that change, right? Because if you say, okay, this is a value that we want to bring to our customers, then we need to make sure our team who is customer facing are comfortable and also equipped to bring this value or to communicate this value with a strong reason to believe to our customers. Some are like generalists, some are specialists, and how can you accompany them through this so that we help them to understand those needs, and once they understand those needs, how can you accompany them so that they can communicate those value in a right way, and when they see that discussions or interactions are going to the next level, they also need to be supported with the right expertise from the team to kind of continue this discussion with the relevant stakeholders on the customer side. Working with them to see how can we bring all our solutions together with the right processes, right IT capabilities, and right support so that we can really demonstrate this value and rely on them to also cascade these best practices or impact of these changes to other healthcare institutions so that they see that they have been through the change and these are the kind of benefits they have experienced by going through this change process, so that it also gives them stronger reason to believe in the partnership that bioMérieux can bring for them.
Yeah, I think this center of excellence concept is really a demonstration of this partnership mentality that you have. It's we're all in this together. Well, you've really transformed things over the last several years, and particularly in the last couple of years in your global leadership role. Where do you want to take the organization next? What do you see as coming up for innovation and for transformation?
So I think as an organization, it's a strong commitment to how can we improve or contribute to make the world a healthier place, right? Innovation is definitely going to be a strong driver in this process. But what more we need to do to really help our customers to better serve their patients. That is here to stay to support us as we move forward. And actually, recently we have made public our strategic vision for 2028, which is called Go 28, focusing on the growth for sure, but then with a strong focus on our people, because I think that's where many of us feel really privileged to be a part of this organization, because we had this opportunity to try things differently when we were convinced that it's going to help our customers. Then we also made it very clear that all that we are trying to do, we also have to do it in a very responsible way without compromising the impact this may bring on the environment.
Well, I think that's actually a great summary of the framework of your value system. You start with a clear mission, get people into the organization who believe in that mission and who want to support that mission. You then put systems and processes in place to empower them to deliver on that mission. And then you constantly innovate inside the company and with customers to ensure that they're actually realizing the impact of that combined set of tools, technologies, people, and processes so that you're actually delivering on that mission. So that's a really comprehensive summary and a great way for leaders in general to think about how they can be making an impact as well. So I really want to thank you for the insights that you provided and the openness that you shared, and also for being the inspirational leader that you are to bring this kind of innovation and change and transformation to the entire marketing industry.
Thank you so much, Gavin. Pleasure is definitely mutual. I also appreciated the discussion that we had. Thank you so much.